Welcome to Cheers. I'm your host, Avery Woods. Hi guys, welcome back to the Cheers podcast. I'm your host, Avery Woods. I'm so happy you're here with me. Today's episode, I'm actually so excited for. It is my journey on how I went from being a nurse to now a full-time social media influencer, podcaster, basically what I do for my job now. And I know I've talked in bits and pieces about this in Q&As or like in David's story, but I posted a TikTok not too long ago of me getting ready. It was about 10 minutes and I talked about my journey and where I came from, how I got to where I am. But I really want to do a podcast episode because I feel like when I sit down and talk, I remember more details. I tell you the full story. And to be honest, I hope it just encourages other people that it is never too late to start or just in general change your career. If you're not into social media, you don't want to do that, completely fine. But me at 28 years old, how I was able to do a complete 180 in my career and it wasn't too late for me. And I think that's really important for people to understand because a lot of people feel stuck and they feel like they can't do it, but you can. And I want to be really open and honest about my journey because it's a difficult one and it's a vulnerable one, but I am always about being my full authentic self. I will never lie to you. I think it's really important to appreciate the people that have gotten me to where I am because obviously I would not be here without you guys. So to that, I give you all my praise and gratitude for the rest of my life. And I want to tell you how it started from the beginning to the end. Well, not the end. God, I hope not. The beginning to where we are now, which hopefully we're just getting started. So if you don't know much about me, I did start, I wouldn't say actually influencing, but I did start posting to Instagram with the hopes to not necessarily influence because at that time, this was in 2016. So, no, that's a lie because David and I weren't married yet. It was 2014 or 15. So, 8 or 9 years ago, I started posting to Instagram. And this was when I was doing my prerequisites at a community college before I went to nursing school. Honestly, I just loved makeup and fashion. Fun fact, when I was in high school, I did a hair and makeup tutorial for the first day of school classic beach waves on YouTube because I wanted to be a YouTube star. What's funny to me is my inspiration was always people like Jaclyn Hill, and now Jaclyn and I consider us friends. She might not think that, but we do text back and forth, and she is one of the most special people in my life because she gives me the best, most raw, honest advice. And so it's crazy now where I'm at. I'm like, girl, you taught me how to do a smoky eye when I was like 15 years old. So she's just an angel. I love her. But yeah, I wanted to be a YouTube star. That did not work out. I posted that one video and my sister, hi Taylor, I love you so much, but she showed all of her friends and they all made fun of me. And so I deleted my video and I never made another one. It's just big sister things, you know. So obviously being that young and that insecure, I was like, there's no way in hell I'm ever making a YouTube video again. So fast forward to be in college and I would just post cute little pics here and there. I was feeling myself, tag brands, that kind of thing. But it wasn't until nursing school. So fast forward to 2016 when I was in nursing school and influencing was a thing for like LTK girlies, like the big chunky necklaces. Like this was my Amber Filler Up obsessed era. Like this is when it began, when I was like, I will be Amber Filler Up. And now she's one of my closest friends and she literally lives down the street from me. Not down the street. She lives in the next town over. That was a big exaggeration. She lives 15 minutes away. Anywho says, obsessed with her. Just such an inspo for me. And you guys probably heard her episode, but her just growth and the way that she has carried her family and created incredible businesses. I always really looked up to her. And so that was the kind of influencing I knew. Medical influencing wasn't super popular then. There was maybe a handful of influencers that did medical influencing, meaning that they were working in the medical field actively while gaining Instagram followers. Obviously, TikTok was not a thing then, so it was all Instagram. Tumblr was also a thing back then. So when I was in nursing school, I saw just a lot of not necessarily negativity, but just I didn't see a lot of positivity when it came to A, nursing school, and B, the nursing field. And then I also saw it in real life. So when I was in nursing school, it was just a lot of negativity of obviously nursing school is really hard, but the students will talk about it and how hard it is and is it worth it. And then when I got to clinicals, I was like, damn, is this the right career for me? Because every nurse that I shadowed was so negative. And that's partly because they weren't treated right. They still aren't. Like hospitals do not treat healthcare workers correctly. I hope for the love of God that changes somehow, but especially when you don't work for a union hospital, it is really hard to stay positive in the nursing world. So when I was shadowing these young nurses, I was like, dang, like I don't see a lot of positivity. I don't see them ever talking about the positive parts about their job. So that's when I started sharing my nursing school journey on social media. And I had originally started a separate Instagram account, and it was all about my nursing school journey with my friend that I was in nursing school with. And I started tagging the scrubs that we were wearing, which was Cherokee uniforms, which you guys have heard me talk about Deb a million times. But in 2016, I got a DM and it was from Deb, but it was from the Cherokee uniforms account. And I remember seeing that and I was like, holy shit, this is insane. Because I was so naive at that point. I knew nothing about influencing. I did not know you could make money from influencing. I thought social media was solely about sharing your life and for fun. I had no idea an income came behind that. And I still didn't for years after this, by the way. And she said, "Hey, been loving your photos. You know, I can see a lot of potential behind what you're doing. Would you be willing to take photos in scrubs that aren't your school uniforms? Because if anyone's been in nursing school, you know, the nursing school boxy scrubs are not the vibe. The uniforms they give you are so horrendous. I'm like, can we change that? Thank you." So she was like, "Hey, what's your scrub size? Can I send you scrubs to take photos in exchange for the scrubs for free?" And I was like, absolutely, say less. Because obviously at that point, I did not have a lot of money. We were so broke. I ended up quitting my job my first semester in nursing school because the clinicals were so much. And then David ended up moving to San Diego shortly after that to take care of his grandfather on hospice. So I didn't really have the option to work anyway. So Dave was working a lot of overtime for us. So a pair of scrubs that were like $30 for a top was out of the budget. So when I got this box in the mail of like all these super cute colored scrubs and patterns, it was so fun for me. It was a creative outlet outside of nursing school. And it made me find joy in that, even though it was like the fashion side of nursing, it just brought me happiness and it made me really proud to wear those scrubs, even though I wasn't an RN yet. So that's kind of how the ball started rolling. So from then, people were going from that Instagram account that we had started in nursing school to my personal account. And I ended up making my personal account public because Deb told me, hey, in order to tag us and kind of do the exchange that we talked about, you have to be public profile. And I think I had about 300 Instagram followers at the time, just from high school and college friends. And that really scared me because I was like, whoa, anyone can see my stuff. I'm so used to just sharing stuff with family and friends. So I made my Instagram public. And I think maybe 5 months after that, I remember I hit 1,000 Instagram followers. And I saw the comma in my following and I was like, do you want my autograph now or later? I was a big deal. um, Not really like cocky wise, but I just was like, holy shit, like I got 1,000 followers. That's crazy. And I think the reason I thought that was because that's when I was like, okay, so people that are complete strangers are not following me. That's when it kind of clicked to me that people outside of my close-knit group were seeing me on, I don't even know if Instagram had the explore page at that point, however people found me. And I would just post really cute Instagram photos. David would take them for me, my friends would take them for me, and I just loved it. And then I would mix in between different fashion. So I would do like a little day off as a nursing student outfit. I would start to, once Reels started kicking off, which was down the road, I would do like little hair tutorials as a nursing student, cute stuff like that. And I just kind of grew from there. And I never had any intention of this being my full time job, which I've been very transparent about. That was not my end goal. I always wanted to be a nurse. And after I graduated nursing school and I moved to San Diego, that's when people started asking me, hey, can you start linking your outfits? And I had a couple thousand followers, I think, at this point. I don't really remember. But that's when I downloaded Like to Know It. And I've told the story before, but I remember that was when like the white t-shirt with like the giant Gucci logo was all the talk about. Like everyone wanted that shirt. And I looked at the price and obviously it's Gucci. And I was like, yeah, never in my life will I be able to buy a designer item. So, of course, what did I do? My dupe ass self. I found it on Etsy. And this lady had like basically stamped logos on t shirts. And I said, absolutely. And then when I was trying to figure out how to do Like to Know It, it was so hard to navigate. It still is. Like to Know It's a hard app to use. But I couldn't figure it out. And then I was like, oh my God, they have Etsy on there. And I found that Gucci shirt and I sold one of them. And I think we had invested in a camera at this point. I think David got it for me for Christmas or something. And we put it on a credit card, of course. Ugh, bad financial decision. Anywho, I put it on my Like to Know It, and that was when Instagram had swipe up. It wasn't like a link click. And I can't remember if it was 8 cents or 10 cents how much money I made. But that was when I ran into the living room and I was like, babe, I made money. Like making money back after buying that knockoff Gucci shirt. Because David was like, why the hell did you buy that? And I was like, hey, I sold one. So girl math, I'm out positive. We're making money, okay? So I graduate nursing school. If you don't know, it took me 3 tries to pass my NCLEX. It was really, really fun. Quick backstory with that. I graduated in December and I had to take my NCLEX in the state of Arizona. That's where I registered to take my test, even though I knew I was moving to San Diego to be with David. And the reason for that was because, first of all, waiting for your boards at the California State Board of Nursing takes months. People can attest to that. And I had already done my paperwork through the school to do my license in Arizona. So I was like, I'm just going to do my license test in the state of Arizona, and then I will transfer my license later down the road. I also knew that you could work on a temporary license, which I did while I waited for my license to transfer. By the way, that did take 11 months. So California State Board of Nursing is very slow. But I went to go take my first NCLEX and I ran out of time. What's crazy to me too, I'm kind of getting off track here, but stay with me. What's crazy about it too is I'll brag on myself for a second. I was a really good nursing student. I did really well. I made really good grades. I was a very good test taker, and my school had a very high NCLEX score because they mimicked the NCLEX with every test we took the entire time we were in nursing school. And we took them all on a computer proctored, so it was very much like the NCLEX. They were all on a timer. They really did prepare you. And so I worked my ass off. I studied so hard. I finished the entire UWorld question bank and I went in to take that test and I took the entire 6 hours. I ran out of time and I ended up failing. And that devastated me. I was so upset and I was so confused because I was like, I know what I'm doing. I know I studied really hard. I know I worked my ass off. What is going on? So I can't remember the time you have to wait in between your NCLEX attempts. I think it's either 4 or 6 weeks. Don't hold me to that. But you have to wait quite a while, which the longer you wait, the more information leaves your brain. So I ended up continuing to do UWorld. I did all the questions. And at this point, I found out I was pregnant with Ziggy. So I was super nauseous the first, I would say like 6 weeks. I was super newly pregnant. And the second time taking my NCLEX, I was just retching, vomiting the whole time. Again, failed my NCLEX. And I was like, okay, that's it. Is this the career for me? Like, how am I going to get there? Anywho, it says, ended up passing, obviously, working my first job, but I was still posting with Cherokee. And about this time, Deb was still running their social media. And she was like, hey, what do you think about posting a certain number of times a week for a certain amount of money a month? And I can't remember how much money it was. I think it was like $250 a month, I think is what I got. And then it slowly went up to $500 a month a few months later. I can't remember. The contracts are maybe six months. Don't hold me to that. I can't remember. This is a long time ago. But there was like scrub photos. I'm sure you can go on my Instagram a long, long time ago where I'm pregnant with Ziggy and I'm holding my bump and I tagged Cherokee. So that was what I did. And then because I was in San Diego, I would drive to LA sometimes and do some photo shoots for them. And it was all, I didn't make any money doing that. I just thought it was really fun and I loved modeling and the environment of getting your hair and makeup done. And it just felt really cool at that time. And it was really cool. And I still love and adore all those photos. And I remember I even continued doing that when Ziggy was born. So when he was a newborn, I have photos and videos of me nursing in the back while I'm getting my hair and makeup done, pumping, and then I'd go out, shoot some photos and scrubs, and then come back. And I remember I remember struggling during that photo shoot because postpartum, the scrubs just didn't fit me the same. Like they were tight on my arms and stuff. Anywho's we got through. It was all good. And I was just so grateful for the opportunity and to, expand my experience and make these connections with my Cherokee family because they really were the first people to ever believe in me. And from there, I did this for years. So I started working with Cherokee in 2016 and my contract just stopped in 2023. So I was contracted with them for 7 years. Like that's wait, right? 2016, 7 years. That's a long time. And I do say one of my favorite qualities about myself is I am very loyal to brands, whether they pay me or not. I just think I had such a special connection with Cherokee that it was really hard for me to leave at that point. But Cherokee ended up selling down the road in 2023 when I left. And so the entire team changed and my singer family, as I call them, so Deb's family, ended up leaving, selling their shares of Cherokee. And that was time for me to kind of part my ways because they had a completely different lineup at that point. But we all left on good terms and I'm still so grateful for them. So for 7 years from nursing school through me working not just in PICU, but even after I left PICU and was injecting, I was contracted with Cherokee. And they just helped me so much. And especially Deb, like really grew my knowledge about social media. She keeps me so humble and she always reminds me of the priorities in life and what's important because she's watched me go from having absolutely nothing to where I'm at now. And I just loved that time in my life so much. Even though I went through so many struggles, that was one of my biggest lights and such a huge blessing. It's something that gave me a creative a creative outlet while I was struggling in nursing school or as a new grad nurse, or we didn't have a lot of money, or becoming a new mom. That gave me a creative outlet that I needed. And in some ways saved me. So many different ways saved me because it gave me it didn't just let me use my mind creatively, but it gave me an exciting different look on nursing, if that makes sense. Meaning, again, even though it's the physical appearance and how nurses dress, it made me look forward to going to work every single day because I loved styling my scrubs. So I continued that journey in San Diego. And then when we moved to Arizona in 2019, I continued as well. I remember when I got hired to PICU, I took a photo on my back patio at this house and I was in a maroon set of scrubs. And that's when I announced that I got my job in the PICU, which was my dream job. And I was so excited. And I remember the one downside that I was upset about, because in California, we didn't have a dress code. You could wear whatever scrub color pattern you wanted, especially because I worked in pediatrics then as well. I would have really fun, like pattern tops and stuff that would make the kids all happy. But here in Arizona, it was all navy blue. And I was like, shit. But I had so much fun styling. Like, if you guys have followed me since those days, you know I'd wear like crazy compression sock. Am I okay? I can't talk today. Crazy compression socks with a bunch of different patterns. I would wear tons of different nursing shoes. I would wear like little vests, different colored jackets. And then a few years down the road, the hospital changed their policy where you could actually wear a different colored sweatshirt as long as it was nursing related, or like an under scrub or a fun t-shirt. So I had a lot of fun styling my scrubs. And I continued my journey. I was working full time in the pediatric ICU. I was making $500 a month from Cherokee. And I think I had to post like 3 times a week. It was quite a lot. So I was trying to balance all of that. And one of my best friends, Abby, I love you so much, Abby. She has been with me. I met her on the first day ever working in PICU in 2019. She's still one of my closest friends. And on lunch breaks, we would take photos. So she would take my photos at the hospital for me. And I would like pose in the med room or in the break room or in the hallway. And that was my post for Cherokee. And I had so much fun because I loved taking photos in the actual hospital setting, obviously away from HIPAA or off the clock, because people really did come for me then. And it was crazy. I was like taking photos of my time card and I'm like, no, see, I'm off the clock. You're not paying me. Anywho's this. So she would take these photos of me. And I just loved that it was in the moment, in real time at the hospital. And I was able to kind of show my real life work environment, if that makes sense. And then when Reels came out, which was around the time that I was in PICU, so around maybe 2019, 2020, I don't really remember when Reels came out, but that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I could start doing videos. And then people would ask me a lot of questions about my job or like nursing school advice. And so I would do little videos of like day in my life as a nurse. I would do my hairstyles as a nurse. I would style the headbands that had the buttons on the side. So when I put masks on, they weren't hurting the back of my ears. I would style my bump when I was pregnant with both kids, and I thought that was so fun. I just had so much fun with it. And this was before the pandemic. So nursing was a lot different then. I just had so much fun and so much joy going to work every day. My coworkers were incredible, just some of the most intelligent nurses I've ever met. Still are. They work so hard. They taught me so much. And it was just a joy. We had such a great team in the PICU, just incredible physicians too. And that was just such a fun time. So that was when I started really growing on Instagram, and I think I hit around, I don't know, 20 or 30,000 followers. And that was huge, 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 huge back then, especially when you do only medical influencing. So it's really hard to grow your following when you have such tunnel vision in your content. And that's what I always tell people, like, share everything. You don't have to create a channel and stick to one subject. You can really do anything you want. Like, for example, how right now I'll do fashion, I'll do beauty, I'll do traveling, I'll do motherhood, marriage life. There's so many different things you can do. People want to watch you for you. And I had a really hard time posting content outside of nursing at this point because I knew the content that did well was nursing. But I think that to me, and maybe my insecurities, I don't really know, that made me think, okay, people only follow me because of my nursing school journey or my nursing life journey or my journey in PICU. But then I would kind of dabble here and there on my days off, and my content was starting to kind of do better outside of the hospital. And I was like, okay. And that's when people, like some of my friends were like, people follow you because you're you, not just because of your job. They obviously love to see that part of you and that side of you, but there's so much more you can share. And I really appreciated that because again, I don't know if it was me being insecure or what, but I didn't want to focus on the only thing I did was working. I wanted to show my life as a mom too. And again, passions of mine that I talked about earlier, where I liked doing my makeup and I liked styling clothes outside of scrubs. So I didn't want to make it my entire identity. So at this point, I kind of started dabbling into other stuff. And in 2020 was when I downloaded TikTok for the first time. And it's funny because I think I posted like, I don't know, one video a month or something. Like my first ever TikTok that did decent was in the middle of the pandemic. And that was when we would get floated all over the hospital. And sometimes they would float you down to like the entryway of the hospital where you'd have to take all of the temperatures of all the healthcare workers and give them a mask when they walked in. And I made a video and I said, like, when they immediately go from touching their mask to their face or something. I don't even remember what it was. And the audio was like, that's nasty. I think I'm gonna go throw up. And I was pulling my mask down to say it. And I think it got like 60,000 views. And I was like, holy shit, celebrities at this hospital. There's a celebrity here. So I was like, wow, that was really fun too. And then I don't think I posted another TikTok for like months. I didn't realize how important consistency was at that point. And I'll be honest, I think the only reason I was so consistent on Instagram with my posts via nursing was because I was contracted with Cherokee. So I needed to post at least 3 times a week. But I did try to spread it out as much as I can because it was hard. Like I did full-time PICU, so 3 12.5-hour shifts a week. Ziggy was around 1 year old. David was working full-time, obviously. And then I was required to do the 3 posts a week for Cherokee. But that $500 extra, man, that helped us a lot. That helped us a lot at that time. And I was so grateful for it. And also, when you work in the medical field and someone says, can you post 3 photos a week for $500 a month? You're like, absolutely. That's fucking cake compared to what I'm doing every single day at the hospital. I'm literally taking care of the sickest kids that there are, having multiple, deaths a week, and then you have this opportunity to post photos for money. I was like, sign me up. So still so grateful for that. And fast forward, I was still in PICU, and that's when my content really started picking up even outside the hospital. And I was able to make a lot more money with Cherokee. I think in 2022, I believe it was 2022, because it was about a year before I left PICU. Cherokee said they would pay me $1,500 a month. And I was like, holy shit. That right there was the reason when I went on maternity leave with Stevie, I was able to go part-time. That is something that I am just so thankful for that. Part-time a week in the ICU, by the way, is 2 12.5-hour shifts a week instead of 3. So I was able to go down one less shift a week because the money from Cherokee made up for it. Oh my God, I was ecstatic. Because when Ziggy was born, I didn't have the option to work part-time. We just couldn't afford it. And up until he was 10 months old, I worked full-time night shift. So that was horrible. And then when we moved to Arizona and I went to PICU, I was so grateful because I got the full-time day shift position. So from when Ziggy was born until I had Stevie and I came back from maternity leave in August of 2021, I worked full-time. So in August of 2021, when I came back from maternity leave, I went back 2 days a week and I was getting $1,500 a month from Cherokee. And this is when I started growing my Amazon storefront. And that is another thing that really changed my life. And this is when I tell people all the time that a lot of people don't understand the money behind social media. And I don't necessarily think it has to do with the dollar amount. I think it has to do with the multiple sources of income, So people think that you make money just from posting. That's not true. You make money from ads, obviously, and then you have other side incomes like Amazon, like to know it, monetizing like from podcasts or from YouTube. TikTok has what's called Creator Fund, so you can get money per view if you sign up for it. You can get money from like anyways, there's multiple sources of income is where I'm getting at. And I currently have seven total sources of income, which so grateful for. But at that time when I realized I was sharing so many dupes from Amazon because in San Diego, that was what I thrived off of. I loved brands like Free People. I could never afford it. And so I would see these other influencers post dupes from Amazon. And I was like, holy shit, I'm going to immediately buy that because I can afford $12 instead of $50, whatever it was. And I remember sharing on my stories to people of my favorite dupes, but it was like screenshots because you had to hit 10,000 followers on Instagram at that time in order to swipe up. So when I hit 10,000 followers on Instagram, that was a big fucking deal because I could link stuff that could get me commission. And that's when, going backwards, when I sold that Gucci shirt from Etsy because I hit 10,000 followers and I was like, oh my God, that was the first thing I ever linked. And I remember I put like the little like to know it thing in my caption of me wearing the Gucci shirt. It was a big deal, okay? So then when I was working in PICU, I was posting a bunch of screenshots of my favorite Amazon dupes or like my nursing school must-haves because people would DM me all the time like, hey, I'm going into nursing school. What kind of supplies do I need? I'm going to be a new grad soon. What do you suggest? And I would just post screenshots. And I don't remember who told me, but people would be like, hey girl, why don't you sign up for the influencer program on Amazon? Because then you can start linking stuff. And I was like, holy shit, I did not know you could do that. I knew about Like to Know It, but Like to Know It wouldn't let me link things like scrubs, you know? So I ended up applying to the Amazon influencer program and I got accepted and I was freaking out. So I made my entire storefront in like different categories. And at that time, you have to reach a certain threshold before you actually make physical money from Amazon, like liquid money to your bank account. When you first qualify for the Amazon program, they pay you in gift cards. But gift cards are gift cards, girl, and everything on Amazon we use. Like, for example, we would use those gift cards for like laundry detergent or Tide Pods or even some snacks. Or I started getting smart and I was like, hold on a second. So I can buy my Crocs that I wore every day to work on Amazon. I can link them. Even if I sold two, I'm still out positive. That's free 99 because I just use my gift card to buy it. So that was when I really started becoming more business savvy and thinking about it numbers wise. And I would do like little videos or photos of nursing school must-haves or hair tutorials as a nurse or my favorite nursing accessories that I could link. And then Cherokee also started Amazon. So I was able to link my Cherokee scrubs that I was wearing at the hospital or in my photos or videos, and I could direct people to my Amazon storefront. So that was really cool too. And then going kind of outside nursing, but not really. I was kind of like dabbling at this point. People would say, hey, can you show me your everyday makeup tutorial as a nurse? And I would find all of the drugstore dupes and I would link them in my Amazon and I would make money from that. And it was just, it still is so fun for me. I love doing that kind of stuff. And that really got my creativity going because I was like, okay, so I can do a little hair tutorial and kind of mix nursing with beauty and lifestyle. And I loved that. And I remember, I can't remember how many years ago it was, but that was when Amazon was like, okay, so not only do you get your gift card to spend, but now you get 10% of all the sales you make. And I was like, oh my God, that was crazy to me because, again, anything helped at that point. And I was just really proud to provide for my family, still am. And it was just really fun to have an extra source of income. And for me, the biggest blessing was just to be able to work part time because I was able to be home 5 days a week with my kids. And I was able to breastfeed so much longer than I was able to with Ziggy. And I also loved making content of life as a working mom. You know, I would do my little morning vlogs of waking up at 5 a.m., pumping, making breakfast, packing my lunch, packing my nursing bag, getting dressed in scrubs, doing my hair, doing my makeup, me going off to work, getting a Starbucks, and then going to the hospital. That was my nursing like morning vlog, was day in the life as a working mom, or my morning as a working mom. And I loved that, and I still miss that so much every day, because I was able to show a realistic side of being a working mom, which, even though I am and I'm the sole provider for my family, it's just a different kind of work, and I understand it's not realistic, it's not relatable. I completely get that. But that was so fun for me, and it was really fulfilling, because I would get a lot of messages from moms, thanking me for showing the real side of it, because that was my life for so many years. And all I wanted to do was show the real side. And I feel like as social media became more developed, it became more unrelatable. And even though I feel like people look at me like that now, which is okay, everyone has opinions, because everyone grows and changes, and that's okay. And everyone evolves in different phases in their life. And at that time in my life, I just wanted to show my true authentic self. And I still do, but I'm talking in the sense of working as a nurse. Once the pandemic happened, there was a lot of change in the hospitals. So I would say, God, 70% of our nursing staff left. They either went back to school because they were like, yeah, I'm not doing this shit anymore. So they go to NP school, which was incredible for them. Or they would go to more like of an outpatient situation, because when COVID happened, they increased our age limit to age 25. So the adult side nurses, which Ashley is still working at the same hospital that I was working at, but she was on the adult side, and she was on a COVID only unit. They were so maxed out. They would have all these overflow units. They had no nurses. So PICU started taking those patients, because we were the only other ICU trained nurses, but for pediatrics. So we started taking care of age up to 25. I was like 9 months pregnant with Stevie. I worked up until 5 days before my C-section. It was rough out there. So I remember I came back from maternity leave, and I was checking in with my nursing friends, on maternity leave, and they're like, oh, so and so left. Oh, so and so left. Oh, we haven't had a manager for however many months. I realistically think for like 4 months we did not have a manager in the PICU, which was crazy town to not have a manager on a level one trauma hospital that's pediatric ICU. It was just chaos. So I came back from maternity leave, and even though I was part-time, a lot of changes happened, and some of my closest friends, coworkers ended up leaving, which honestly it was good for them. That was when travel pay was insane for nurses, so they had way more opportunity, which again, bravo to them. Like, I would have taken the opportunity too if I didn't just have a baby. I would have probably gone and traveled to make more of an income for my family. But anyways, just a lot of the dynamics of the nursing field changes. And I've talked to a lot of people about that. I posted a video about how I went from nursing full time to social media full time. And of course, there's like the bad seeds every once in a while with the comments that you changed so much, or, you said you never leave nursing. And I had commented, and I said, very honestly, I said, I did say that at one point because I just truly didn't have the option to leave nursing. But the pandemic really changed the nursing world, and I was very fortunate to have the opportunity, and I took advantage of that in order to be home with my family more. And so many nurses commented and were like, no, the nursing world is completely different after the pandemic. So much has changed, and I'm speaking more so towards my hospital. I'm sure there aren't I don't think every hospital is as bad as, what I've experienced, but I'm just saying from my situation in itself, it was really hard. And then when my social media started getting some major traction, it was towards like the fall slash end of 2022. There started to be some issues, and issues in the sense of me not doing anything wrong, but higher ups in the facility getting uncomfortable with the amount of traction I was bringing in. So they didn't like that I had popularity in a large hospital corporation. It was kind of obvious where I worked. I never shared where I worked for a reason, and I never showed my badge. I never broke any rules. I had never been late once. I had never been written up. I had never made a med error. Like I'm talking I was I was a good nurse, and I was really bothered that they were judging me based off my social media presence rather than based off the nurse that I was and the work that I was doing. That upset me. And I think it bothered me because you already deal with strangers on the internet that judge you without ever meeting you. How do you judge someone based off the content that they post, but they don't know the kind of human being you are? That is something I don't get, but you know, whatever. Anyway, we won't go down that path. Anyways, so it bothered me that I had so many managers on my side that were like, no, we're on the floor. We see what she's doing. We see the work that she's doing. She's training new grads. She's letting students follow her. She's one of the most experienced nurses we have left since the pandemic because so many people had left. But they wanted me out because they thought that there was going to be some sort of negativity brought in with the content that I posted. And because of my scrub color, it was kind of obvious at the facility I worked at because there's only a certain number of PICUs in the state of Arizona. And when I tell you, I had their social media policy printed out, stapled, and highlighted in my nursing backpack every single day. I had that thing every day. I updated it weekly. So I was like, I'm not breaking any rules. They even had issues when I was doing try-on hauls in my scrubs in my home. Girl, I'm not working. I'm off the clock. So then it got back to me that there was a higher up that worked at the facility I worked at. I'm not going to say any names, that had dropped my name in a meeting with multiple managers saying, Avery's lucky she works in PICU. It's the only reason she has any sort of social media following. Imagine being a 50-year-old woman and saying that about a 26-year-old nurse that's doing a good job and loves coming to work every day. That really got under my skin, and that's when I knew a target was on my back. And as things started evolving and more people left, that's when I got my injection certificate and I did my training because I wanted to dabble a little bit outside of PICU. There was another PICU that I could have gone to, but it was like over an hour each way, the drive. And I was like, I'm not willing to do that. So I had always been interested in injecting because I loved skincare and I just loved the nursing side of aesthetics. So I did my certification. I was working 2 days a week in the PICU and 2 to 3 days a week injecting. On top of being a mom, it was so hard, but I wasn't ready to leave PICU yet. I came and left, I did my job, and I still loved it so much, but we didn't have a lot of people left at that point. And we also floated so much, and I just loved PICU and I just missed being there on every shift. So I started dabbling in injecting, and I wanted to make sure I really loved it before I left the PICU because, again, I really did love PICU so much that I didn't want to leave because I felt forced out. I wanted to leave on my own terms. So it was also just, I filed a complaint with HR because I did feel that it was getting to the point of harassment from certain higher ups that they were really just out to get me. And I started injecting. I really loved it. Really, really loved it. Still do. I think injecting is so cool for nursing. I filled up my clientele. And then I would say about 4 months after I started injecting, it was December of 2022. And I was like, I think it's time I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave PICU. One of my best friends, like I told you, Abby, she ended up leaving. She did another travel opportunity like most of the people that left. And it was such a hard decision to make. It was so hard. But I even my old coworkers can attest. There was a person that was a boss that did not like me. She did not like the fact that I had social media. It really bothered her. And I remember sitting in that office with her and an HR representative talking about how I felt harassed, printing out the social media policy. I mean, I was on my game. And it was so funny because I remember looking at this HR person and pleading with him, like, aren't you supposed to help me? Don't you see what's happening here? Why aren't you helping me? You are supposed to be human resources for the people that work here. I'm not doing anything wrong. Look at my file. I've done nothing wrong. I've gotten Daisy awards. I again have never been late. I've never gotten in trouble in any sense of anything while being an employee at this hospital, but you're discriminating against me because of my social media. How is that fair? And I said straight up in that meeting, I said, if you guys won't let me just come and do my job and let me leave and do the job that I love doing, I'm about the only one you have left, by the way, that has experience. If you don't just let me do that, I'm going to hire a lawyer. Immediately the next day, everything dropped. No one ever questioned me. No one ever said anything anymore. Because they knew they had nothing on me. They opened these investigations on my social media where they would like watch all my videos and then they realized, oh yeah, you never broke any social media policy. We're just going to drop everything. I said, yeah, I've been telling you this for 6 months. Like, come on, guys. Anyways, I just felt so betrayed by this corporation because why don't you appreciate the nurses that love their job and love coming in and giving it their all and love learning and love teaching, and we're not doing anything wrong. Like let us do what we love to do rather than judging us based off what we post online. It was just wild. So I typed up my letter of resignation, and it was about 6 weeks it took me to send that because I was struggling. And David and I kind of like budgeted out because, again, I wasn't at the point where I'm at now. I didn't have a manager. I would get maybe like one brand deal a month, and it was for a couple $100, which, again, at that point I was so grateful for. And that's when I was like, oh, brands will pay you money to send product and take photos with it. Holy shit. All right. So I had Amazon, Like to Know It. Took me a long time to make a lot of money on Like to Know Us. I really wasn't making much on then. And then I was contracted with Cherokee, and Dave and I are like, okay, if I work 3 days a week for like around 8.5 hours injecting, I could leave PICU. And I was sitting at work and I had all like my nursing crew around me, the ones that were left, and one of them was going to graduate soon. The other ones are a lot older than me, and they were just so encouraging and sweet, and hopefully they can retire soon. But I sent the letter of resignation, and I CC'd the CEO, CMO, the director, and the manager, telling them my experience of how I felt like the nurses weren't being taken care of. I kind of did let loose a little bit. I was really respectful, but I was honest. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to leave the hospital, I'm going to stand up for my coworkers because they're not being taken care of. So I said how I feel like the nursing world has changed, how we aren't being taken care of, we aren't being appreciated. You know, we were really kind of given the short end of the stick because when I said that we had to increase our age up to 25 and take care of a lot of adults that had COVID, the facility I worked at gave the adult COVID nurses a bonus, like a COVID bonus, and they refused to give any of the PICU nurses that bonus, even though we were taking care of adults that had COVID. There was just so many things. I used the same N95 mask for 3 months. It was just like full of makeup and it was disgusting. We didn't have anything we needed. So, anyways, I was very honest in my letter of resignation, and I also said how I felt targeted because of what I choose to post online without breaking any social media policy. And I did not hear back from a single person. I got one email back, and it was one sentence, and it was, We wish you the best in whatever you do. So I said, okay. So I kept that letter of resignation to hold on to just in case. But that was when I went to full-time injecting. And again, I sent my letter of resignation in December of 2022. I think I left right before Christmas, and that was my first Christmas off in 7 years. That's crazy. So long, because even before I was a nurse, I worked at Starbucks, and I would work almost every Christmas because David would also work, and we made more monies on the holidays, and I was like, slay, Starbucks working on Christmas. So I was able to have Christmas off, and I was so happy. And then that was December of 2022. Fast forward to June of 2023. That was when I got an email from my management team. And I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a joke because when I tell you, I mean, I can't say it's embarrassing, but it's honest. I emailed so many management places. I was like, please help me. I I would get so many emails a day, but it was like a lot of spammy companies, or like I would post videos and pictures with products for free without making a dime off anything. Because again, I just didn't have a lot of knowledge on social media. I didn't realize you could make a lot of money from that. So I was just grateful to have the free product and not have to buy it, especially when it came to stuff that I actually wore. And so I can't remember which one of my friends, but a lot of my friends were like, we're doing social media full time. And they're like, girl, you got to get a management team. And I was like, how do I do that? They're like, just start applying. So I was applying to so many management teams, and they all would send me the same like automated email back, like, we're not looking for anyone at this time, but thank you so much for your interest. I was like, okay, it's not my time. So it was June of 2023 that my team emailed me, and they're like, hey, we'd love to, hop on a Zoom call and kind of talk about what your goals are with social media, because we do have an interest in representing you. And I was like, oh my God. And at this point, my life was drastically changing, because from, I think it was maybe February until May, I grew 1 million TikTok followers, which was crazy. Like, blew up insane. And my Instagram was, how big was it when we first met? Yeah. When Scott and I met, I had 120K. And so I would say maybe around 80K was when I signed with my team on Instagram. And I had a meeting with them, and they were like, I was like, can you tell me about what like you do? Because I'm not really experienced in this. They're like, sure, we pitch you to brands, or brands will reach out to us to work with you, and we negotiate your rate, and you get paid for certain deliverables. And I was like, okay. I was like, what do you think I should be making with like my following and engagement? And they told me, and I was like, what? I was like, what? I've been missing out on that much money. Holy shit. Okay. But I had an aneurysm. I literally ran downstairs to David, and I was like, David, listen to this shit. So I ended up signing with them, and I remember they said, send me a list of your top 5 dream brands to work with. And within 1 month of being with them, I'd worked with all those brands. And it was just wild. And that was, again, I signed with them in June of 2023. I ended up stopping injecting that fall. So I would say like 4 or 5 months later, I stopped injecting. And I got to a point where I was doing too much. I will be totally honest about that. And again, I will never come on here and say this job is hard, but the work that goes behind the scenes is something that a lot of people, unless you're in it, just don't understand. And I was trying to balance 3 days a week injecting for 8, 9 hour days, being a mom. I also had to make content injecting, like for my injection page, like before and after photos, videos, that kind of thing, because that's how you grow your clientele. And then that was when I started becoming more knowledgeable about the algorithm, consistency, and growing your platform. and you don't take a day off. Like, to grow on TikTok, you need to be posting 2 to 3 times a day, which I think I've been doing that for, gosh, I maybe started consistently doing that January of 2023. So maybe a year and some change. I haven't taken, a day off from posting 2 to 3 times a day on TikTok. But it's the editing behind it that people don't see, where you sit and edit for hours. So I was trying to balance that, staying consistent, still working 3 days a week, being a mom. And then all these other opportunities came of like traveling, brand trips. And there are certain brand trips, I would say I say no to probably 80% of the brand trips offered to me, which I'm so grateful for the opportunity. But I am very choosy just because I want to be with my kids. And obviously, it's not realistic to take my kids on brand trips, but there are certain brands that I think are really important to show face on, especially when you have a personal relationship. It lets you show face with the CEO of the company, the founder of the company. You learn a lot of business things going to those trips because you make a lot of connections. You also connect with other influencers that are in this same world where you can make friends and connections and you learn a lot. So, my first brand trip was to the Hamptons, and it was with Poppy and ColourPop. And I was so grateful because Em and I got to go together, and I was so nervous because it was my first brand trip. I didn't know what to expect. So, I was grateful to have her with me. And that was my first ever first class flying experience. And I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. I get food on a plane. And yeah, it just kind of evolved from there. And then in the fall was when I was like, okay, how much more can I balance? I was so burnt out. And David and I kind of got to a point where we sat down and we made a pros and cons list about me leaving the nursing field at that time. And it was the hardest decision I've ever made. Leaving PICU was the second hardest decision I've ever made. Leaving the nursing world in general was the first. And it was just because I worked so hard for my nursing degree, and I truly just love the nursing world. I love using my brain. I love critically thinking. I love helping people. It's such a big passion of mine, but I feel like I was missing out on so much stuff with my kids. And I had the opportunity to work from home, grow our families' lives exponentially when it came to making sure that we were secure in finances, making sure our kids could go to college and we can help them pay for it. Like we just got the girls braces, and that was something that we were like, God, we're going to have to really budget or like be on a payment plan for something like that, me working as a nurse. So it's one of those things where it will always be there. The nursing world will always be there. I can always upkeep my license. And right then in that moment, while my kids are so little, I had the opportunity and I seized it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It bothers people, and I'll tell you why I think it bothers people. I think it bothers people because you don't see a lot of people get hate that have only done social media influencing or sharing about their previous career. If all you know a person for is influencing, that's what people are used to. The fact that I have evolved and changed so much in the public eye is what bothers people. And I think it bothers people because I was able to leave a career that's a hard career, it's an undervalued career, it's an underpaid career, to do this glamorous life as people see and make this income that's so much greater than the nursing world. And I took that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I think if anyone else was presented that opportunity, I think they would take it. I just don't think that they can realistically think that way because it's just a thought. It's not sitting on their lap. But concluding that, I think social media has room for everybody. Everybody can be on social media. It doesn't matter what you want to talk about, what you look like, how you act. There is room for everybody on these platforms. It's a very scary thing putting yourself out there. So telling people like, just do it, just post. That's a bold thing to say because it's really nerve-wracking. I still get nervous posting certain things because I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck are people going to say about me now? But there's only learning opportunities and there's so much growth to be had. And these brands want to see new creators. They have budget to pay other creators to do certain things. And I don't think it's wrong to do it as a side hustle or to leave your career in order to have more opportunity and be an entrepreneur. And with social media comes things like starting a business or having income to start a business, having an audience to sell a business to, investing in other businesses, making connections with businesses that you're able to invest in or asked to be invested in, having extra income to invest in real estate or private banking, whatever you decide to do. That is what social media has brought me the privilege of. And that was not an easy decision to make, to have this be my full-time job, but I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity, and I'm so happy that I did it, because our family is so blessed and we do not take any day for granted. I wake up every single day thinking this could end tomorrow. And that's something that I learned from Amber, where she was like, any day this could end. And that's true in the sense of like how they want to ban TikTok right now. That would change a lot of things for a lot of people. And I'm grateful to have multiple sources of income, that I work really hard in each area to provide for my family. But things like that can change. And the world of social media isn't forever. It's also not going to last forever for everyone. Like, I'm sorry, when I'm old and gray, I'm not going to be posting my TikToks like slay outfit check. No, like I'm going to want to fucking be retired on the beach. So it's just about being smart and business smart, which social media is a business, point blank, period. And I love learning about the business side of it. It's really interesting to me. And I just love what I do every day, even though obviously there's certain things that come with it that are really hard, like hate and judgment from people that don't know you. But that's just, I hate to say, like, that just comes with the territory, but it just does. It doesn't give people the right to be so evil, but that's what happens when you put yourself out there. You know what I mean? Just like how celebrities deal with paparazzi everywhere they go. It's just, that's what happens when you're in the public eye. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And I wish all the people that hate me more than anything the best. And I hope that they can grow and get some therapy. I don't know, pray. But we're here, and I'm so grateful because I have so many people that support us. And I say us, meaning me and my family, because I would not be living this life without people that enjoy watching our content and are here because they just enjoy me and my personality and what I like to share. So for that, I'm forever grateful. Advice for people that want to do social media: be consistent. Don't stop. Don't post something and it flops and you're like, ugh, I can't do it. And then wait a month to post again. Just keep doing it. When I was posting in the beginning, all my shit was flopping. It was doing so bad. Instagram, TikTok, all that shit. It was doing so bad. I still have stuff that flops sometimes, but you just keep going. You persevere. And the more you post, the more you learn and the more you catch on to being faster with editing, trends, trending sounds. When you're posting a TikTok, use a trending sound, do a trend that's going viral at the time. Be real. I was talking to some girls at the Tarte trip and they were like, "Can you imagine the influencers?" Cuz you do meet a lot of people in person that are totally different than they are online. I will be really honest about that. I'm not necessarily saying in a bad way. I do think a lot of creators hide their true authentic selves because they're too scared to show it because of the hate that will come with it. Because when you show your true authentic self and people don't like that, that means people just don't like you. And that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, especially for people that are more timid. And so we were talking on the brand trip of how exhausting it must be for people that don't post their true authentic selves and kind of fake it a little bit, which again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but that's really hard to upkeep in the long run. So I think if you're going to do it, be boldly yourself. Just put it all out there. Be funny, be silly, be serious, cry, be honest, because that's how you can grow and people will respect you. Because even though hate comes with it, you can't say that you were lying. You can't say that you weren't being honest. You can't say that you weren't being your true authentic self. And the phrase I always say, which I'll say a million times over, I would rather be loved for who I am than hated for who I'm not. I don't want people to watch me and hate me and I'm being fake. If you hate me because I'm me, okay? And if you love me because I'm me and know that I'm the same person. That's what's important when it comes to social media. So I think if you really want to do this, post, be consistent. What else, Scotty? Be yourself, authentic. I'm blanking. Share the good, the bad, the ugly, and invest in some equipment if you can afford it. My favorite piece of equipment, if you're willing to spend around $600, get the Canon G7X because it's the best dual camera. You can take high quality videos on it if you want to do more video form. You can take incredible flash photos on it for more static image form, like for Instagram. And there's a little flip up camera so you can do like more selfie modes. I love that. Get a good editing app on your phone and just be real, like be yourself and do it. And that doesn't mean everyone has to do it or needs to do it. Or if you're watching this, that doesn't mean that you want to be an influencer. But for those that have an interest in social media or want to gain a platform or maybe share their business, that's another thing too. A lot of entrepreneurs are able to do so well in the business world because they're able to share all their stuff on social media. So I hope that helps you. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and hearing a little bit more about me and how I got here. Again, I'm so grateful for all of you. And Scotty and I are actually leaving tomorrow for a little podcast trip in LA. We're going for a little less than 4 days, but we're doing about 3 interviews a day. So I can't wait for you guys to see who we're talking to because you're going to gag. It's going to be so fun. But I love you so much and cheers.